basketball and everything else?
That's a great question. Personally, I call myself the MC, the host, but somebody told me that I should be the minister of culture for Baylor recently. That's not self-proclaimed, just for clarity. I feel like that would be absolutely horrendous and like stupid to self-proclaim. I'm not Matthew McConaughey down at Texas, but and Nate Hilgenkamp does the same thing, and he kind of does it just as well, if not better. And so, yeah, I'm the host, man. It's an honor to be the host, hype man, whatever you want to call it. Who knows?
The Baylor sports hype man. I like that. I think I like that better than minister of culture. What on earth, what university would have a minister of culture?
Yeah, what a waste. It's not even a real title. Again, probably self-proclaimed by him.
I come on, but he's got the money to do it. Dale Wallace joining us today. Dale, here's the first thing I want to do is kind of break down really where you came from. I know a lot of our viewers, listeners that have been in the arena or at a football stadium have seen you with a microphone and a bunch of cheerleaders before. And just walk me through really how you got into this position as the host of Baylor Athletics.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one, I went to Baylor University 2011 to 2015, graduated in 2015, moved to Dallas for a year, came back. And when I came back, they had just started this MC host thing at Baylor, and they didn't know who to ask. And one of the grad assistants had been coming to Vertical. And so that was 4 years ago. And he just called me. He's like, dude, I know you can speak in front of people and you won't be at scruffs after the game. So would you consider interviewing for this position? And I was like, interview for what? And he's like, well, we don't know. Just come meet with us. And so a couple of years ago, they brought in me and Blair Browning, and we started this thing. And so I really stumbled upon it because a grad student was at Vertical, and that grad student didn't even go to Baylor for undergrad. It was like so random. And, but I love Baylor athletics. I love Baylor. Obviously that's why I'm here working with college students for Vertical, but also like huge win to get to be a part of Baylor athletics. It wasn't a huge win then, because I witnessed the 1-win Matt Rule season, and I've witnessed the SFA loss a couple of years ago in men's basketball. Like I was there trying to get people hyped through that stuff. So it's sweet to get to be really good right now. And it doesn't really matter how well I do now because we're good at basketball.
Walk me through, too, with your job, with your role with Baylor for these games, do you ever get to just sit back and watch the games, or is it constantly the pressure of, oh, my gosh, where's the Whataburger carryout? I need the cardboard.
Question.
Like, what's your perspective at these games?
Yeah, well, for one, I do have to treat it like a job. Like it is a little bit more of a job than I'd like for it to be. It doesn't come completely naturally to remember, the walk-ons Rose race, game day with a taste of Louisiana. Like that doesn't it takes some time, especially if it's a new promotion. But the best part is usually by third quarter football, first or second timeout, second half in basketball, first or second timeout, I'm done. So I'm at least paying attention to the last quarter of the game or pretty much the second half. And then half times are chilled too. And usually by that point I'm comfortable and have gotten the swing of things, but it is a little bit of a process. But I love getting to like finish and then be fully present. And luckily there's a great group on Baylor Athletics fan engagement that kind of takes care of where are the fries, where are the cheerleaders, where's the camera, where's the, what's it called, whatever. So I do get to like watch the game as I'm waiting, cheer. The challenge is when there's something bad that happens and then we have to go, it's like, okay, it's the smile cam and we're losing. So everyone smile. Like that's when it's the worst. So I actually am paying attention, and sometimes it can impact it. But really my perspective is try to be hype everywhere I go, but also try to remember like what I'm supposed to say. So.
Tell me, too, we've spoken with a lot of guys that work in sports media, which this is an extension of sports media. It's basically like,
totally.
What a cool job to have. For you, I've met so many people that are either radio show hosts or hosts of things like this, that behind the scenes, they're huge introverts. They hate talking with groups of people. They can be with a mic in front of 10,000, but not 10. Is this your personality, or do you got to really just get up for stuff like this?
That's a really insightful question. Truly, I've met a lot of introverts as well that I'm in ministry. So my primary role is like when I meet a pastor, I'm like, oh, you're an extrovert, and they're a total weirdo introvert. And they like don't even like to talk, but they're so fun and so personable on a stage or whatever. And it's very similar, as you're saying, in the sports world. I'm more extroverted by nature. Like I naturally am going to run around and be like, hey, there's the Browning kids at the basketball game. I'm going to give them high fives. And then, oh, snap, we're supposed to be on the thing. Let's do the thing. Like I'm naturally like that. But the more I've done it, especially football, when we were 40,000 people in a stadium, I would leave after a game and I would need to be alone. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was on the big screen, half the people saw me, half the people didn't. It doesn't really matter either way. But like, it's this weird thing where I've started to become more introverted and really need more time alone to start the day. I can't just like be around people all the time. And then there's this expectation that people have for you that everywhere you go, you're going to be hyped. Like I'm eating, at a restaurant in Waco, and somebody comes up to me at George's. They're like, dude, like SicEm Bears. And I'm like, yeah, dude, SicEm. Like, that's great. Like, I'm having a chicken fried steak, like, whatever. And so I am always outgoing and extroverted, but I'm becoming more introverted.
Along with that, being the Baylor hype guy, when you see an arena of 11,000 people for college game day or a stadium of 50,000 people for college game day, and you've got a microphone, cameras on you, whole stadium, eyeballs on you, is there a certain level of nerve that comes with that, or are you just BU ilt different at this point?
No, not BU ilt different for sure. There is a natural I don't want to call it anxiety. That's dramatic. There's a natural, like maybe fear, like a healthy, like I need to focus. And I think it's not a pressure. I don't feel like it's a burden. It's just this natural, like, oh snap, like it's almost like that gut feeling like we're about to be on. And it doesn't matter if it's a football game where no one's there or a basketball, like it really, obviously it goes up, it escalates when it's college game day. But in general, I have what I call a healthy fear, a healthy anxiety of like, okay, it's time to pay attention and focus because I have an opportunity to add some value to this game. If we're down, I have an opportunity to make this game even better for fans. If they don't feel comfortable here, or they don't think this is fun, they don't even like basketball, but they're there. Like I have an opportunity to help engage them in a way that's different. Like we're watching players play. I'm communicating to people. They're listening and they can see me. Even Derek Smith is amazing at what he does. He has a great voice, but like, you can't see Derek. And so it's a unique thing that I think helps break the barrier. And so I have this it's like a healthy anxiety. Again, anxiety is the wrong word. I don't know what to call it.
It's a nervous edge. Come on, your nervous edge.
I have a healthy nerve of each game. Oh yeah. Small or large.
I feel like very similar for us at Uptempo. I mean, we're a pretty young radio show. Most of the media outlets in Waco, you're gonna get guys that are 50s or above. They've been doing this forever. I mean, we all here are like college age guys. So you wrap up a show that is good. There's the slamming on the table. You throw something across the studio. You killed it. Do you have those moments where you get done with the 50,000 people and you think, that was it, that was good?
Yes, I do have those moments. It's way better when the fans do something great. Like the Matson financial putt that Nate actually got to be a part of last year. I mean, I was in the stands because I'm a Baylor fan. I was naturally at the game, but he was working it. Like, that's the best thing. Like when somebody wins something big and it creates momentum, that's the most natural way to create momentum. For somebody to win something, when a fan wins something, it's like that too just makes it even more fun and sweet and exciting. And so that's when I like feel like I've crushed it, is when I've helped communicate well the game, and then the person executes well the game. Obviously the higher the stakes, the better. Whataburger is great, but like everyone can track those fries usually. But I think it's so fun to just and then I'll say the one thing from a personal perspective when I'm like, I just crushed that, is when I ad-lib something funny, when it's like, oh, that didn't go the way it was supposed to go, but I just said something that like made it funny. So it does not matter that was the dumbest thing that's ever happened at a football game, that walk-ons rose race just went across the whole Baylor line section. But I made it funny. So it's a little bit less of a big deal. And maybe Baylor doesn't love that, but who cares? Somebody's probably doesn't love that, but everyone in the stands thinks that's great. And that's when I think I can add to it. And that's really when I feel like I have a big win.
Do you feel
unintentionally.
Do you feel like too that sometimes you have personal responsibility to get the crowd into a game? That there's a timeout, the opposing team's gone on an 8-0 run, maybe Baylor's still leading, but there's tension, and now boom, bald guy, camera. Now the show is on you.
Totally, especially when we're down or the other team has just scored a touchdown and that timeout hits. You're like, everyone needs to wake up. Like, we're getting crushed right now. Like, I actually care about this game. And that's something I appreciated, that they're cool with me, like, adding on the, like, hey, actually stand up. Like, let's get loud. Or like, we're at home. Mm-hmm. Like, this is part of being at home, this is an advantage. And we get to help create that advantage. And it's not working right now. Just like, I love that. I think it's part of the game. I think, it helps the players and truly helps the fans. We're so used to sitting back and just being entertained. We forget, we can actually like play a role, home court advantage. It's part of it. So yeah, man.
With COVID too, and just knowing your personality and being around the vertical ministry and how well you interact with people, when you're in the middle of a pandemic and now you're doing all of these things, but from a limited standpoint, how has that changed your job?
Yeah, well, it's definitely more challenging in all things. I will say, from a sports event perspective, it's the same kind of execution. You're just not getting as much energy out of it because there's less fans in the stands. So you just have to, be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more energetic, a little bit more hype in some ways. But nobody likes the overhype guy.
Yeah.
Like, nobody likes the fake guy. Everyone's like, that guy's annoying. Or at least in my experience, especially young people are like, this guy's fake. He's being ridiculous for himself or something. And so there's this weird balance of like being hype, but not being like ingenuine. And then, and I will just admit, just from an athletics perspective to my full-time job is ministry, athletics for 4 years taught me how to look at a camera. And I had to learn to look at a camera, and that fans are through the camera. And then you hit pandemic button for vertical, and you get to this like, oh, snap, I'm looking at a camera and no one's in the room. Thank you, Baylor Athletics, for teaching me for the last 4 years how to look at a camera and not care the noises around me that people are making or the distractions or anything else. Like, the camera is the focus. Don't stop. Just, look at the camera and teach the camera. And so I'm honestly grateful for this experience of working with athletics. It's really served me well in even my full-time job. So.
Yeah, for those that are watching or listening that don't know, Dale is the head of Vertical Ministries. That you guys don't just go live on Monday night, that you're doing things throughout the week that benefit Baylor students and the Baylor community. I myself, a freshman last year, attended Vertical a lot, and now we do it every Monday night. You get the friends together at the house, you watch Vertical, and you throw it up on the TV. And that kind of segues into this question. I really wanted to get into your role with Vertical combined with fan engagement, and that's you gave the prayer at the basketball game was it last night?
Yeah, last night.
And how do you balance, you're giving the prayer at the basketball game, and then you're the same guy that's got the walk-on sign, running through the crowd?
Totally.
I mean, what's the dynamic where you mix those two?
Totally. Well, for one, I think people need to see that, people's views of Christianity vary. And one of the primary views is like, man, Christians are lame. Like, they're just lame. And some of that is like totally fair. Like, there are some lame Christians, but I would venture to say, like, that's not the way. That shouldn't be normal. That shouldn't be normative. Like, you can be so fun. You can have so much fun in following Jesus. And so, like, praying last night and then going to the to the row with the kids and passing the Walk-Ons Road logo. Like, dude, that's exactly what it's all about. Like, it's easy to go from prayer, one, because I actually care about the players. I'm like, Lord, I actually don't want anyone to get hurt on both teams. Like, I actually want our fans to glorify God. I don't want us to be screaming F words at Kansas State. One, Kansas State isn't worth our words in taunting them. And two, it's just not a good way to represent our university and the university's value, which is the Christian mission behind the university. So I'm like, I actually care about the Christian side of things. I am a Christian. I want to be a leader. But I really love the opportunity to get to be fun, to dance. Like, that's the primary thing, dude. Like, I love to dance, and people think it's, stupid and foolish, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I personally actually love to dance. When I was in college, I'd spend time in groups of people at parties. I would dance. Like, I'd be everywhere. I'd be the sober dancer. And that's how I've always lived. And I think that when people see that they notice, and that's my hope, is not that they would notice me, but just see like, oh, he can pray. It seems like he's praying to Jesus. He's a follower of Jesus. Sounds like he understands the gospel, and and he's fun. He can dance. Like, what? Baptist dance? Like, what? Who knew? Like, that kind of stuff, I think, is honestly, it's such a sweet thing to get to be a part of the university in that way. So,
before I continue with the line of questioning around you being the Baylor Athletics host, let's narrow it down. Melody Ranch, Smiley's, or Austin? If you're going dancing, where are you going dancing?
That's a great question. Well, like, Austin is kind of like my favorite, but it's really Melody's probably the most like you always know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more clean cut in the sense of dancing, but who knows, dude? I actually haven't been to any of them since COVID, so I can't even. I feel like removed, but I really like the. This is going to be questionable, but I'd prefer like a club like atmosphere, which is kind of funny. Like, I'd rather dance and alone in a corner or with my friends, like to music that people like, and that is the top 50. Like, I actually like that stuff, and two-stepping is great. That's like the most simple. What you're gonna get, but you got to kind of dance at another place. You never know who's gonna come try to dance with you. So I think that's so fun. So
I promise each of those places, if our viewers, we get a lot of listeners from Dallas. If you guys have not been to any of those, it's like you go from the Baylor bubble to a completely different realm when you walk into Melody Ranch, and it's just 50-plus-year-olds in the cowboy hats and the boots.
Totally.
And just, where am I? But there's nothing quite like it. The atmosphere that those brings, and really, Dale, kind of reverting back, and what else that I have left for you, because I have so many questions. We're limited on time. What is really the best moment that you remember from being the Baylor Athletics host? What's one moment that sticks out so strong for you? And then before you even get to that, what's one moment where you go, yep, no, I don't know if that one worked out so well?
That's great. Those are great questions. The first one that comes to mind, which football game was it where it was pouring down rain?
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was only like 1,000 people, maybe 25.
That was like the first game, the second home game this year. I'm pretty sure, coming off like the West Virginia loss.
No, I think it was senior night. Wasn't it senior night?
It was Kansas State.
I think it was Kansas State.
Well, we won. The one game Baylor won.
So we won. And I remember, so it was pouring down rain. I missed my first read, not by my choice, because of senior night. They were like, Dale, forget it. And I was with this group of cheerleaders and the cheer coach. And I didn't know this, but cheerleaders don't get to run the line. And so to get out of the rain, we went under the line section tents. And I was like, let's run the line. Let's just do it. And they were like, we're not allowed to. And I was like, whatever, tell them Dale said you had to. We're going to get to the next read by running through the stadium. We need to get to the other side, and we'll just go with the line. And so we run with me, the cheerleaders run with the Baylor line section. I'm mic in hand, just screaming at the top of my lungs. And it was like pouring down rain, just this moment I'll never forget. No one is in the stadium because it was the ugliest game ever. And we won, and it was so memorable. So I think that was like truly one of my favorite memories of being a part. And honestly, what made it even better was the next game we were working. So it wasn't the last home game. I guess it was the Kansas State game. I'm getting them all mixed up. There was another home game where some girls, we were about to run the game again, and the girls were crying. And I was like, hey, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm just so sad. I'm not able to run the line, and I'm a senior. And so the game before, we had run the line. And the next game, I'm with a new group of cheerleaders, and they don't get to run the line. And they're like emotional about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I didn't even realize how amazing what we did was for them. And so that was the highlight. And then I think, what is the low light? I haven't had a low yet, which is such a gift. Supposedly somebody has once said Pizza Hut instead of Papa John's, or flip that. Maybe they said Papa John's instead of Pizza Hut. And that, when I heard about that, I'm sure that is the low of any Baylor host or MC. When you say the wrong, I'll say one thing, and it's also like kind of where I have some beef. The one thing that I've gotten most frustrated about, and was one time I said sports clips something.
Right.
And they were like, hey, it's sport clips, right? And somebody corrected me, and that was my least favorite moment in the history of my time with Baylor athletics and being an MC and a host.
To this day, it still irks you. Those are the moments you never forget. Those are the moments.
When somebody comes up to you after and says, hey, you said sports clips, and it's sport clips, and I just about quit. And so
I love it. All right, Dale, before we get you out of here, we got Bear Games that we play every day on this show. And cool. Today's Bear Games questions, we're doing the Baylor second best bracket of the last decade. Who's the second best player to suit up in a Baylor uniform outside of RG3, because it'd be unfair. Today's matchup is between Bryce Petty and Corey Coleman in the championship for all the marbles.
Wow. Second best. See, the problem is that I know Bryce better than I know Corey.
Yeah.
Bryce is a friend, so this could get weird.
And Corey won the Biletnikoff.
But I will say that I think Corey Coleman is the second best. And sorry, Bryce. But I really think Corey Coleman, I don't even think I went to school when Corey was around. My freshman year was RG3. And I didn't realize how good Corey was until years later, when I was like, where's somebody like Corey? Where are they? Didn't we get some more of those guys? And so I'd have to go with Corey Coleman.
Corey Coleman, he's an absolute freak. And then our last question of the Bear Games today: if you're going to a restaurant and getting a kid's meal, which restaurant and which kid's meal?
Who?
Note that I said Texas Roadhouse macaroni because it's $4.32, endless bread, endless peanuts, free drink, and fries with macaroni. Good luck topping it, Dale.
That's brilliant. There's a place I'm trying to think. There's a chicken place that you can get a kid's meal. It's the same amount of chicken as it is just for a normal meal. I don't remember where it is.
Like a Golden Chick? Or
something like
Chicken
that,
Express?
like a Bush's.
Like a Bush's?
Yeah, like a Bush's, where it's you order this and it's literally just ordering. It's just $4 instead of $8 or $6 or something.
With the kid drink. All right, we'll put you down for Dale Wallace, some chicken place in Waco, kids meal.
Come on.
Bingo.
There you go.
That's it. Dale, thanks so much for joining us today on Uptempo. Pleasure having you on, getting to hear your perspective. I mean, the guys that people just don't think about, that they're like, oh yeah, I would flipping love to know how that guy got into his job and how he does what he does. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us your perspective.
Appreciate it. SicEm.
Absolutely. All right, guys. How about this?